The postmodern world is fragmented. There's no longer coherence in the content, as the aesthetic of postmodernism is the expression and form matters more than content. This is also the case in David Lynch's noir horror film Lost Highway from 1997, where symbolism is the mainstay in the film that gives the viewer food for thought. Basically, we meet the jazz saxophonist Fred, who is framed for the murder of his wife and sent to prison, where he suddenly turns into a younger mechanic Peter, like some sort of identity crisis.
In Lost Highway, there is, somehow, two male protagonists, Fred Madison and Pete Dayton. Fred Madison is a musician and married to his wife Renee. In the beginning, Fred suspects Renee of having an affair, and he struggles with his masculinity. For instance, the couple tried having sex, however, Fred failed to perform, and Renee responded with, "It's okay." Fred seems to be successful with his beautiful wife, expensive house, and career, but his life is not nearly as fulfilling as it could be. In contrast, Pete Dayton is a car mechanic who doesn't seem to have any problems with women. He spends time with his friends and family, and his life doesn't seem to be as superficial as Fred's does. While Fred is restrained, Pete is carefree and in control. Pete is, in many ways, the mental idealization of Fred. However, it can be discussed whether Fred and Pete is the same person, as Fred turns into Pete in prison. If Fred actually murdered his own wife, Pete can be considered as a way to escape reality, as the transformation only exists in Fred's mind. Pete becomes a personification of Fred's subconsciousness as he tries to forget his actions. Both Pete and Fred also suffers from continuous headaches and several blurred visions as Fred is trying to suppress the murder of Renee.
The setting in Lost Highway takes place in two different dimensions, which is making the setting from the first part very different from the second part. In the first part, we follow Fred's point of view. This part of the movie is primarily taking place in Fred and Renee's house, which is labyrinthine and just in general spooky. The labyrinthine house is just representing the labyrinthine mind that Fred has and how you can get lost in the house just as he gets lost in his own mind. The setting throughout this part is giving us the conception of Fred's trying to deny what he has done. The second part of the story is taking place in Fred's mind, where he has transformed into a younger mechanic named Pete. This part of the story is told from Pete's point of view, but with Fred's subconscious. The ambience is not as spooky in the second part. This could be because we are in Fred's subconscious and he denied the fact that he has killed his own wife.
Lost Highway bears the mark of many postmodern features. The story is first of all highly fragmented, which is a distinctive feature of postmodernism. To help with understanding of the film's fragmented storyline, there's a high use of symbolism that keeps the plot on the track. In the beginning of the film, Fred and Renee receive some videos that later on become more significant for the story. The videos seem to show the truth of some of the events that Fred tries to deny in his conscience. He tries to escape the reality where he brutally kills his wife, but these videotapes are symbol of the intense emotions connected with Fred's crime that haunts him and forces him to remember his actions. There are clips that contain a cabin burning in reverse. This fire represents Fred's raging emotions such as jealousy, anger, and frustration over his wife's infidelity. At first, Fred tries to keep these emotions locked up inside of him, like inside the cabin, until his rage can't take it anymore, which is when he decides to kill his wife, as he can't keep up with his emotions. The fact that the cabin keeps burning and that the fire becomes bigger might indicate how his emotions after the killing of his wife becomes worse. Later on in the movie, a mystery man appears who is the result of Fred's overwhelming emotions, which also is underlined as the man says, "I do not go where I'm not invited." Fred has created him out of his own conscience, which can also be linked to the burning cabin where the mystery man walks through the fire like he's inside of Fred's head. The mystery man is responsible for showing Fred the ugly truth, which is supported by his frightening looks. This can also be interpreted as a symbol of how Fred is disgusted by the thought of what he has done to his wife. The emotions which are created as a result of the crime are clearly more painful, disturbing, and detrimental than those Fred originally attempted to escape from. Throughout the film, we also see a fragmented clip showing a highway that becomes more and more trembling with each clip. This might indicate how he in the beginning tries to escape reality by denying the truth, but as he is caught up by his own emotions and confronted with his actions, he ends up on deciding on a lost highway where there is no turning back or going forward. There are many ways of analyzing and interpreting the film, which basically also is the intention of postmodern works. It depends heavily on finding your own solution to things and own perception of the world, like for example in Lost Highway, where the viewer alone must find a context in the fragmented story. In that way, you create your own story with the help of symbolic meanings.